Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our second session of the Leganto Day, the second half of the half day. Thank you for all those who joined last week. Just to let you know that there were 82 attendees last week, which is a great number. I mean, I'm excluding all those from Ex Libris who joined as well. Just you, 82 people. And I assume that there are more, there's the same number of people here today. So our plan for today is to have 3 sessions. The implementation of Leganto during lockdown, lesson learned from Catherine Stephen from the University of Surrey. And then a technical session just in between about LTI 1.3, which is the new LTI standard. Barak Hecht from Ex Libris will present that. And the last session of today is by Linda Pover and Leda Channer from the University of Manchester. And that's about the hybrid approach to Leganto, working with purchase requests and lists for review at the University of Manchester Library. So thank you all presenters, and we'll let Catherine start.
Thank you very much. Well, I can't share at the moment.
It's on its way.
Thank you. Is that coming? Oh, I can't see anyone, so is that now working?
Now your screen is on.
Now you can see.
Presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. Thank you very much for having us talk. I suppose in one way I should flag up that in some ways I'm kind of not the best person to be speaking about this because although I did do the project management of the project, the work was mainly done by the team, obviously, and I know that we've got some of the Surrey implementation team are on the call today. So what I will say is they haven't seen the slides that I'm presenting, so any mistakes and misrepresentations are entirely down to me. And Sally, I think I've seen you on the call, and possibly Laura. Please correct me in the chat or refute anything that I say if it's incorrect. So what we wanted to do was have sort of a reflection almost on what it was like implementing Leganto during the lockdown. What we found was that aspects of our implementation that we sort of put into place because of the lockdown, they didn't actually, kind of cutting to the end here, didn't hinder the process as such, but it was a really, really good learning experience, I think, for everyone involved. Hopefully I can get to the next slide. This was some feedback that we got from an academic. So I'm kind of cutting to the chase, if you like. And now you know that the story doesn't end terribly, it actually ends quite well. So this is a quote from one of my colleagues who got this from one of her politics lectures, I think. And I'll just read out for anyone who might not be able to read the screen. For a minute there, I was like, angry emoji. Why would you change the reading list system at the same time as we're changing the whole way we teach? But actually, it's a major improvement. Well done, guys. Smiley face. And I think that pretty much sums up actually kind of how we felt going into it, but how we felt at the end of it as well. Quite neatly done by our academic colleague there. So our planned timelines, although I say that the project kickoff, we had always intended that it was going to kick off in April 2020. We had been discussing it for quite some time before that, so there had been quite a lot of pre-work. There had been, like I said, a lot of discussion, but maybe not quite the commitment. And the commitment wasn't firmly made until November 2019, when the senior manager who was leading the team at the time left and kind of it was handed over to me that we were going to do this migration. We were migrating from Talus. I'm not putting this on the slides, but quite frankly, I was absolutely terrified. I will say that now, and I did not want to do it, and felt it was completely beyond me. So add in a pandemic, and you can see how we were kind of going into this. We did have our kickoff meeting that kind of slightly before the April date, which was in the February. And if we all remember what was happening in February 2020, that was kind of when everything was just starting to go south. In fact, in our kickoff meeting, we didn't even the Ex Libris team weren't even in the room. I think at that stage they were, I think 2 of them were based in London, and they dialed in at that stage. So it kind of set the scene going forward. The aim was always to complete by July 2020 in time for the academic year starting in September. And we did actually go live in August. So, which I think actually is a miracle as I look back at that. So yeah, not too far off it actually. The challenge, well, obviously we were going into lockdown, so it was how to work entirely remotely, and on paper that seemed like the absolute biggest challenge that we would have to face. But I think underneath that, certainly at Surrey, we had lost the senior manager who was going to lead the project, who had a great amount of expertise and experience in doing migrations and in dealing with Ex Libris products. And they were also, you know, the expert in kind of in content and how all these systems fit together. So that was kind of a blow going into it, that the team were stuck with me, who didn't have any technical knowledge in how to do this. We'd also lost some people that we were used to working with in other departments, mainly our technology enhanced learning. So we were looking at integrations with our learning system, and the virtual learning environment that we use is not a commonly used one at Surrey. We use Desire to Learn or Brightspace, which isn't very much used in the UK. So we'd lost kind of that go-to person, if you like, there, who kind of already knew the system. We're also looking at redesigning the virtual learning environment. That had already been decided. What else went wrong? Challenges. We also, from the Ex Libris side, the engagement manager left with quite short notice midway through the project. Along the background of that, we obviously had, with the lockdown, the fact that reading lists were being pushed front and centre as the way to access the resources in hybrid education. You know, our e-resources were what was carrying a lot of the teaching that was going forward. We were trying to make it simple for people. You know, this is a one-stop shop. So the reading list suddenly, although it's always been a key aspect of our education frame, was really front and centre under the spotlight. And to also add to that, we decided that we would be implementing the digital content store for our digitized content, and Easy Proxy as a way of getting to the content as well. So it was no mean feat that we kind of set ourselves up. And I will say that we did have conversations about, should we put this off for a year? Should we, you know, should we not do this? I can't remember why, but we definitely decided that we were going ahead. And so we did. Now, I was going to plan to put together a presentation entirely from Pinterest quotes, and I'm going to say, was it luck or skill that we managed to get to the other side? And here's a lovely quote that I've gone with Thomas Jefferson, but on Pinterest gets attributed to a lot of people. I'm a greater believer in luck, and I find that the harder I work, the more I have of it. And I think this was very much an essence of this. The team, I've never seen a team work so hard to get something up and running, which is absolutely amazing. So I will definitely attribute it to the hard work there. So as we're going into it, as I've said, I was incredibly fearful, but I am incredibly lucky that we had an amazing team that could do this. So we went into it definitely with some principles, and these were underlined, I think, by the fact that we were in lockdown. It certainly did focus the mind. I also think that there is an advantage, I think, in some ways of myself being the non-business owner, that the role we set out to do maybe a little bit differently. So one of the main principles was assuming nothing and asking questions. So quite often when you've got people around the room and people are having those conversations, in my experience, sometimes things get missed. And just by having this element of that we will ask all the questions and that there were no stupid questions, it definitely meant that we had a lot people around the table a lot clearer and involved. And we had this session, there were no stupid questions. We had new people coming in, as we've said, because we had our go-to people had left the building, so to speak. And asking questions actually really helped us get to a solution that worked for what we needed to do. I think coupled with that, we also made sure we had the right people around the virtual table. I'm going to go into the project team in a minute, but I would like to think that we maybe had a different mix than we would have had it been implemented in normal times, if you like. And when we did our lessons learned, that was one of the big things that came around, that we had the right people at the right time. So although it was a lot of people, I don't regret it, and I think we would probably do it the same way again. We did have a contingency, I will flag up. Such was the felt that it was the high risk, if you like. We did agree to extend our other product for a little bit longer, so that if everything did go wrong, we would still have something, and we could sort of pull the plug, if you like, and put it off for another year. So we were very fortunate to have that, and our library director was able to secure that funding. And I think, as I said, because the spotlight was on this and it felt so high risk, it was made a priority by our director, and I think by all the teams as well. And with everything that was going on in lockdown, it almost felt nice to have something that, you know, we could focus on that had a nice end result. So we did all give it the priority and the space that it needed, which I don't think we tend to do with maybe all the other projects that we do, in terms of it being such a big departmental library project. It did feel like everyone was kind of in it with us, if you like. So our project team, as I've said, it was an amazing project team. So I would take note of these names, because if ever you come across them, they really know what they're talking about. We had Chrissy Willis-Phillips, who, these aren't job titles, sorry, this is kind of the role that they were placing in this. We had Catherine Batson, who was leading from our academic point of view, Jerome from systems, Sally from metadata and all things detailed, which is amazing, Laura on acquisitions, and within these they all obviously had their own teams as well. Within our project team, we also had an IT project liaison person who was really good at the very, very start. Even though they didn't feel that they had a lot to offer, they actually were incredibly useful at all the different points coming in and helping us join the dots and put it in together. And it was very much seen, they had it as a priority as well. So that was fantastic, and it's something that we would want to continue with. We also fortunately had a solutions analyst at the start, which did help us understand how it fitted in, but this was only for a short period of time. And as I said, our colleagues in learning technology, we actually were lucky enough to have two. So we had Kabir, who was new to the university. So we kind of got him as he was starting off and indoctrinated him. And we also had a sort of long-standing colleague who was the manager of the area. But this meant that it was really plugged into the redesign of the virtual learning environment. So it was right up there in the conversation. So I think that was an element of luck that we managed to get that person on board, because it really made sure that the project was very much in alignment with the rest of the activities that were going on. Now, because of lockdown, well, as I said, we already had discussions with other universities, and I think we do have to, say thank you to colleagues from Edinburgh and Lancaster, and I'm sure there were other universities that we definitely picked the brains of going into this. And that really helped us actually know where were the moments that we wanted to maybe spend a bit more time, or that we wanted to explore a bit more to make sure that we were confident in what we wanted to do. So we're incredibly grateful for the generosity of the time that they spent talking to us, and I know that we still continue to reach out. As I said, we did have our kickoff meeting in advance of this in February, and I don't know about what our ex Libris colleagues think, but we definitely made sure that we used that time very in depth. We went through the project plan step by step in far greater detail than I think was anticipated, but we felt that I think that stood us in good stead actually, because it meant that we knew where to line up our resources and what sort of things we might have to spend a bit more time on as well. We were fortunate, as with implementations by Ex Libris, we did have a project outline, which was fantastic. It meant that we didn't have to come up with our own one. And that was obviously incredible. But we did obviously tailor that, and that very much became a working partnership as that scrutinised, as the team looked at it, as they applied it to what our Surrey setup was and how we could make it work for us. We had very regular meetings as a full project team in Ex Libris. And I would say, I don't think outside of lockdown that possibly those would have been as successful, because everyone was having to work online. It actually, yes, there was the tackle of it working, there was the issue of it working online, but we were all forced to communicate incredibly clearly. And on a really pragmatic level, we didn't have to bother about booking rooms. So one of the issues that we have at Surrey is that there is one, maybe two rooms that you can book that have a screen so everyone can look at it. And to get that booked is just so hard. So actually, to be able to share screens and to understand what's going, there was a lot of screen sharing going on. And that was something that I don't think would have maybe worked as well if we were all face to face. It also meant we had a lot of contact with Ex Libris in the way that, you know, possibly wouldn't have been as easy. So there was something about having everyone online. As well as the sort of the regular meetings with the full project team, which as you've seen is quite a big team, we also established some strands, some subgroups. So we had the technical strand, the engagement strand, and the operational strand. And each of these was led by someone else in the group. And I think this was really good because it really played to the skills of everyone that we had in these groups. So in the technical strand, and as I say, I am not a technical person, but this is where we were revisiting the migration plan very regularly. We spent a lot of time, and my colleague Sally was incredible at making sure that the data matched up, and I think questioning what was, you know, what the implementation plan might say, and suggesting new ways of doing it. We did also add in extra testing periods and a sort of a sample data dump, if you like, to play around and test. And I think those really helped. So we were able to work that in from the very start, which was really helpful. There was a lot of work about understanding what the configuration would mean for us. That work does continue, I will flag up, but a lot of work went into that and a lot backwards and forwards, and we were grateful for Ex Libris to come back to us and ask those questions. There was a lot of work about how we accessed, and as I've said, with Desire to Learn and with a new member of the Learning and Teaching, there was a lot of backwards and forwards with testing. You know, what did it look like? How did we access? How did we link with the modules? So that was a huge amount of work, a bigger piece of work than I think we had maybe initially anticipated. But the end result is we've actually got something that was a lot better than what we went into the project with, and it has been commented on by staff and students that it is far easier, far more accessible and far visible. So it was worth it in the end, and it did actually solve a few issues that we had going into it anyway. We also had a few issues that did take a bit of time. A kind of a snag was the authentication, where we did have to pull in other people. But again, fortunately, having the IT project liaison kind of in on it, if you like, as part of the project team, did certainly give us a bit of an in that we wouldn't have had if we'd had to go to the IT team separately. So I think that was really good to have them involved. And the IT, George did say that actually he appreciated being part of the project from the start too. So that went well. It's something that we will keep. Our engagement strand, we didn't see this as purely a technical project, and I think sometimes the migration could be, but what we really wanted to do was make sure that it was equally owned and that there was as big an engagement piece about how it was being used. We were very fortunate that our reading list engagement had been increasing. It had been increasing throughout the years, just because of other activities that we were doing and kind of the strategies that we were employing to make sure it was embedded in. So one of the biggest things was not losing the trust of the academic community. And as it goes back to that email from our academic, you know, this was at a time when everything had been chucked up in the air. Our academics, we know, were working, you know, we all were working many hours a day, and they were under a huge amount of stress. So what we realised was that your traditional way of kind of using this as a really good example to sort of gain reading list engagement, our view was actually we just didn't want to lose what we already had. We wanted to be incredibly sensitive to the workload of our academics. Our content team were fantastic in actually providing even more support than they would usually. So how we almost did it was, and it was a little bit almost against what we were being advised by the engagement team at Ex Libris, was kind of trying to play it down and kind of say, do you know what, this isn't a big deal, this is merely a system change, because we were very aware that if we were to just add in a whole other thing, that we might break our academic colleagues, and we did not want to do that, obviously. So our content team actually did a little bit of the data checking alongside the building of new reading lists. So for this year, we weren't expecting our academics to build reading lists from scratch unless they so wanted to. We found that actually a lot of them did themselves. So really the work was in supporting, it was promoting, but it was in minimising the impact that it would have on our academics, even though it did actually have a really positive impact. So it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but I think that really worked. And our engagement team, sorry, I haven't mentioned, obviously, in all these strands, we had the other members of the team. So we had the content team, had Catherine Riches involved. We had Fiona, you know, all of the assistants massively involved in doing the work. And in our engagement, we had our team, our social media team were giving some support, as well as our other liaison librarians too. So a huge amount of work went on there. And then finally, we had our operations strand. So this is something that was kind of bubbling along and this is now continuing. So this is where we were revisiting our processes and workflows. It folded in the DCS migration, and it's about realizing the efficiencies that we could make. So there is a lot of ongoing work, and it has to be recognized. You know, we very much recognize that the migration was phase one, if you like. It was a start, but that work continues because it has to be embedded into everything that the content team are doing, as well as our engagement team. We have to figure out how it interacts with all the different systems that we have. So we're currently looking at rollover and how we can improve things like the course loader and integrations with our other systems. And we have got the amazingly titled Slug group, which is Surrey List User Group, which provides a kind of a space to continue those operational discussions as we look at how we can realise fully the benefits. I've lost the notes, sorry. So if we're going about with, is it luck or the amazing skills? I have to say there obviously was an element of luck. We were lucky that we had an excellent team. And I think with that, and I would say as a non-business user, the focus really went on the team, and I think there was an amazing amount of trust there. So I think we can only say that is down to luck, the fact that they had worked together for so long and were so experienced in what they did. There was a huge amount of trust that we would trust each person to put in what they did, and they really had a chance to shine, which is lovely. And we were also lucky that, given the circumstances, it was so high priority that we were kind of given, if you like, that space to really make sure that this worked. In terms of what we can continue, though, there was a lot of things that we actively put in place that we would want to continue. I found myself the other day, and I don't know if Leonard is on this call, going, oh my God, I wish we had Basecamp. And I never thought I'd be saying that, but actually Basecamp really did work well. And I think there is something about having that, that single point for conversations that keeps out of the email. I never would have said that before, so I put my hands up and say I was wrong. I think there are aspects where we can sort of, do that, make sure that we have a holistic team around. I think there was so much that people brought, and even though it could be seen as a technical project, I think bringing that together, we've got a lot more understanding, but we also had a very well-rounded project that really fit in with the department rather than an individual team, which I felt was really good. And I think, lastly, I'd just like to say, you know, things like the Leganto User Day, being part of that larger community, we really, really benefited from having those conversations, you know, in advance of starting this project. And we would love to think that we could also be a support for other people going down this journey. But this idea of the community that we can learn from is something that I think we would want to continue in future projects. So thank you so much for listening to my very non-technical reflection. I've put my email address there if you do have any questions, and I will happily forward them to the team who can answer, or to put you in touch with the right people there. So thank you.
So Catherine, thank you very much for that presentation. I'll just take the opportunity to say good day to everyone as well. Had a bit of a battle with Zoom and WebEx at the same time. So I was a few moments late in joining. If there are any questions, Catherine, I assume that you would be happy to take those as well. Yeah, so if you do have any questions, then please pop them into the Q&A. There is one question already, which was whether you had any academics as part of your engagement team.
That is a really good question. At the outset, I think pre-pandemic, we absolutely would have done and looked at a way of involving academics in. I think we were very mindful of the massive workload that they were facing. If we look at when we were doing it, so we were doing it from April to July, we were obviously transition, as I'm sure everyone was, with online exams and having to look at that. So we did kind of make the call that whereas we would kind of tap up, if you like, a few known academics, you know, friendly academics doing a little bit of reading lists, certainly some testing in the early days of people who we knew had really good, you know, really meaty lists and troublesome lists. We did do that, but we didn't formally include them, no. Mainly just being really mindful of their time, to be honest. Our academic engagement team are very, very in touch with our academics. You know, they're not not that they're not separate, but they almost work for the academic or faculties as much as they work for the library in that way. So we were very confident that we were accurately involving them. But you're right, I think in an ideal world, had it not been a lockdown, yes, we would have wanted to have included someone. I think the other thing though with academics, I would say is we find as many academics as you have as many academics plus one opinions in the room. And I think sometimes sort of even with the three faculties, sort of having that discussion with, we have three faculties at Surrey, sort of arts and social sciences, which includes business and law, as well as our humanities, engineering and physical sciences, and our health and medical sciences, and they all work in very different ways. So yeah, I think it's always bearing that in mind as well.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I absolutely agree with you, Catherine, that at that particular stage, everybody was just so overwhelmed, and they weren't really looking for anything else to take on. But yeah, thank you for that answer. There are a couple of other questions as well. One guest is asking what specific aspects were improved, if you can comment there.
Certainly in terms of the virtual learning environment, the visibility of it. So it had been, with our old reading list, it had kind of been a square widget on the right hand side of the screen. And it could be moved, so it could move quite far down sometimes. And I think the academic could possibly move it as well if they wanted to. So we definitely, when we did a lot of sort of our pre-work and our reading list work, looking at engagement and how could we make sure our reading lists were as good as they possibly could be, when we reached out to students and asked them, a lot of them were like, reading list? What reading list? And so that had been something, feedback that the team, we'd collected, you know, for a number of years, that was one thing they wanted, was make it more visible, make it easier to get to. So we were able to kind of, we definitely used that when we were speaking to our colleagues in learning technologies, and kind of jumped on this and said, right, listen, make this really obvious. So it is now, it's actually co-located within the course content, and it's in two places. So it's in the main course bar and it's within the course content. So that was a big thing just to start off with, that we got good feedback. I think we did find as well that Leganto looked nicer. I think we got a lot of good feedback about how it looked and also how easy it was to use as well. I think there was, and I'm sure colleagues will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the logging in was a little bit easier than our previous system, in that we didn't have to sort of, they all automatically had accounts, I believe, so that helped with the academics getting access to it. And also the engagement team did a lot about sort of how you could go that little bit further, how you could deep link a bit further, how you could make it, surface it a bit more obviously. So that was really positive as well. And we found that it was intuitive to use. We didn't have to do a whole lot of training. One thing that we were very clear on was that we didn't have the resources to retrain every single academic to do it themselves. And I know that this is a topic that we in libraries get, you know, we're split on completely. Should academics do it themselves? Should we do it themselves? Should we do it for them? We took the view that we wanted to provide almost a safety net, but it's kind of an unpublished safety net, if you like. So we'll help it if you know the right way to come, but really would rather you did it yourself. And that seems to be working, but we probably need to solidify that a bit more. But we're getting away with it. The team did do a lot more work though during that transition process, because also we didn't want loads of academics coming and saying, oh, can you tell me how to do the list? So it was always about managing that. But no, we found that the system actually was quite intuitive. So that was a big improvement as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that answer as well. There's one other question, Catherine, which is how has your list review process changed since you moved?
I think that is something that we are looking at a lot. That is something that the operations team, so I'm probably not best to speak about that. We can certainly get in touch. I think we want to make better use, and I'm not sure if Sally can jump on actually, if she's here. We want to make better use of analytics. I think one of the things, and that's what I mean about looking at the efficiencies that we can go forward. I mean, our view is that every time we are an ex-Libris campus, we have Alma, Primo, Leganto now, and we are an early adopter of Esploro as the research workflow there. So we really, every time we're adding a new system to this, we're aware that we have to kind of work backwards and look at, well, what is the impact of that? So we definitely want to make sure that we're using analytics, and we want to learn. The team have been using tagging, and so it's looking at tagging and headings and things like that. So no real answer at the moment, but that's something that the team are actively working on to make sure that we're kind of doing that as efficiently as possible. And Sally has just jumped on, and yes, that is a really good point, Sally. Sally has said, oh, where's my chat? That Rialto, the team also, along with everything else, implemented Rialto for ordering as well. Sally, I've lost the chat. There we go. Yeah, so Sally Smith, who is, like I said, amazing, please don't steal her, could be worth mentioning that we implemented Rialto at the same time, and so they're looking at the entire end-to-end process. So I think Rialto is about, that efficient ordering, isn't it? So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. The team are very busy. Sorry, that wasn't the best answer, but get in touch with us and I'm sure more expert people can correct you. Thanks, Sally.
Oh, Catherine, it was a great answer. And when you mentioned Rialto, Alma, Primo, Leganto, and Esploro in the answer, then I obviously love it as well. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for a very honest and insightful presentation as well. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll pass over to Barak. So Barak, you have already the presenter rights, and I'm passing to you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, Alan. My name is Barak. I'm the Director of Development for Leganto. And today we're going to talk about LTI 1.3. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me know that you can see the screen.
Yes, Barak, thank you.
That's great. Okay, so let me start, and a few basic things before we start with those who are not aware of what LTI is. Okay, so LMS is the initials that we're going to use during this presentation. This is the Learning Management System, or as you know it, the VLE. So we're going to see this word in the next slides. So just that we understand, we're talking about, this is the course management system. It's either Moodle, Canvas, or Blackboard, or whatever LMS you have. This is okay. So what is LTI? It's initials that stand for learning. Forgot what it stands for, but anyway, it's a protocol for communicating between the LMS and something that is called an external tool. In our case, it's Leganto. Leganto is an external tool. So it's a protocol for communication between the LMS and Leganto. This protocol is a standard, and it exists in most LMSs. So it's not something special for Leganto. This is a standard that exists around the world. There are many other external tools as Leganto, but each external tool does its own specific thing. So why did they invent the LTI? They invented it in order to extend the LMS functionality. So the people who built or thought about this standard understood that the LMSs are going to develop functionality that is around courses, but there might be extensions such as Leganto that offers reading lists. There might be extensions such as, taking exams or doing assignments in a separate system that is not the CMS or the LMS. So this is why we need LTI. And what is LTI? Basically, eventually, it's a link in the LMS that once a student or anyone clicks it, he arrives into a different system, but this user is already signed into the second system, and usually course details are passed as parameters to the external system. Okay, so this is LTI. This is the basic things of LTI, connecting the LMS with an external system.
Barak, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there is a gray square on the screen towards the right-hand side of your text. I wonder if you're able to remove it at all.
Talking about
Yes,
this.
that one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's gone now. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. So we've talked about what LTI is, and now I just want to explain what the LTI integration profile is. The integration profile is our invention. It resides in Alma. And in order to get your LTI integration working, the first thing that you usually do is create an LTI integration profile in Alma. So what is this LTI integration profile? So looking at this screen, you can imagine it as a door that if you have the key to this door, you can access Leganto. Okay, so we can see on the left side, you might, as an institution, have more than a single LMS. You can have one, it doesn't really matter, but you must create an integration profile, at least one, a door that has a key for the students and for faculty to enter Leganto as a signed-in user. And the only way of doing this is by creating this door, this integration profile. So as you can understand from this screen, there is no problem of creating multiple doors into Leganto. Okay, you can create as many as you want. You can use only one of them. It doesn't really matter, but you can create doors. And every door you create, you also get a key to open this door. So as you know, the integration is once you create this integration profile, you copy the key that you get from Alma and you place it in the LMS. And this is how, when students arrive into this door, the LMS knows to provide the key. It opens the door and the user arrives into Leganto through this door. Okay. Up till now, the doors that we created were with version 1.1. And now, from the June release, we are going to support the version of 1.3, which is LTI 1.3. So if you decide to implement LTI 1.3, you will start by creating an integration profile that is relevant to the version 1.3, and then you will continue with the integration as you did with 1.1. So we've talked about what LTI is. We've talked about what LTI integration profile means. And now let's talk about what LTI 1.3 means. So as you can understand, it's a newer protocol from LTI 1.1. And some of its advantages are the more possibilities of integration compared to LTI 1.1. So if we look at these possibilities that I've listed here, we can talk about embedding content in the LMS. So we're going to see an example at the end about what this really means. It enables us to integrate with assignments and gradings. What this means is that you will be able to create an assignment in your LMS, and the assignment itself will reside within Leganto. These are going to be assignments that are based on what we call social readings. That's the ability to annotate text and add comments to these annotations. So we're not going to talk about assignments in this presentation, but just bear in mind that soon Leganto is going to expose an assignments feature in it, and you will be able to connect your LMS assignments with the Leganto assignments. And in addition, faculty will be able to grade students inside Leganto and automatically sync these grades back into your LMS. Okay, so this is a new possibility that now is available for us once we support LTI 1.3. And another possibility of integration is what I called here the link selection. So as you know, today we support relinking. That means you can put an LTI link and then point it instead into the list itself, into a specific item in the list. It's either a section or a citation. So this functionality already exists, but LTI 1.3 will allow doing this in an easier way than it's done today. We're not going to talk about this as well. I am going to talk about embedding content in the LMS, but as we go ahead with our developments, we will release news about these new features. And just that you know, when we use LTI 1.3, we are continuing to use the same data that we use today with LTI 1.1, which is the username and the course code. So this is data that is passed to us. And with this data, we're able, first of all, to log in the user automatically and then display the relevant data that is relevant to the course code that is passed to us. Okay, so LTI 1.3 arrives in the June release of Leganto. The documentation is already on the web in this URL. So whether if you have this presentation or not, we will send this link. It's in the developers network, just along where the documentation for LTI 1.1 existed. So you will see it easily there. And basically the integration of LTI 1.3 includes 3 steps. We talked about the first one, it's creating an integration profile. You then copy the details from the integration profile into your LMS. This here in step number 2 is where LTI 1.1 stopped the integration. I mean, there were only 2 steps for LTI 1.1. You created a profile and you copied the data into your LMS. With LTI 1.3, there's a 3rd step by which you need to copy data from your LMS back into your integration profile. So it's an additional step as opposed to LTI 1.1. So you can read all about it in our documentation, and we will be enhancing this documentation by the time the June release is released to you. So how does it look? This is a screenshot from the integration, the LTI integration profile in Alma. On the right side, you can see what we had in LTI 1.1. On the left is 1.3. So it's the exact same screen, same buttons that you're used to. The only difference is that here in the drop down, you will choose version 1.3. You will be displayed with these two sections, where in LTI 1.1 you had only the first section. This is the data that is copied into the LMS. So now it's a bit different. Instead of a key and a secret, it depends on the LMS that you're using. But this is a screenshot for Canvas users. So here you will receive 3 links that you need to copy into the LMS. And as we said, there's a third step where you need to copy data back from the LMS into the integration profile. These are the fields that you will fill in with data that you received from the LMS. And once you copied back the data to here and you clicked save, the integration is more or less complete. So this is all there is to LTI 1.3 on the Leganto side. Should be very simple. A suggestion of how an upgrade can occur. So first of all, you need to understand that in your LMS, you can run LTI 1.1 in parallel with 1.3. I already explained that from the Alma side, you can open as many doors as you want. So you can immediately open a 1.3 integration profile. There's no problem with that. It's not in use. Everything else is continuing to work as needed. So there's no problem creating an integration profile in Alma. There's no problem in starting the integration on your LMS. In parallel, everything will continue to work with LTI 1.1. So what we suggest is configuring the 1.3 on both sides, testing it while 1.1 is still running. And once you see everything is working as needed, you can hide 1.1, the links of that using 1.1, and now start exposing 1.3 and having maybe new courses only use the LTI 1.3 when the old courses still have the old links. So this is just an idea of how this can be achieved. And so we talked about LTI, we've talked about what LTI 1.3 brings to the table. And I want to show you now screenshots of the first step that we're taking advantage of LTI 1.3, and that is embedding data in your LMS. So how is this going to work? So this is the screenshot. What we're seeing here is, first of all, this implementation is currently only for Canvas users. I'm not yet sure whether other LMSs support this integration, but if they do, because LTI is a standard, what we see here will also work with other LMSs. Up till now, I haven't seen an additional LMS that supports it, but as I'm not an expert, I might be wrong. So the documentation that currently exists only for Canvas. So what will Canvas users get once they, first of all, implement LTI 1.3, and then do an additional small configuration to allow what we see on the screen? So what we see here is the built-in editor of Canvas. Okay, it appears in some pages that Canvas offers. And in the toolbar, you'll be able to see a new button that you can name however you want. This is our naming. We called it Import Citations. This is the thumbnail or the image, the icon that we decided to associate with this text. This icon is our default. You can change it to whatever icon you want. So I'm opening the editor in a context of a course, and I want to put content in it. I can click this button, and I will be exposed with a pop-up that will open upon this editor. I will see the list content that is associated to the course that I'm currently in. I will be able to select the relevant items that I'm interested in. I can see that I can choose the different bibliographical style that I want it to be imported in. And then I click the Add button, and what happens is that the data is copied into your LMS editor. You will see this data here inside the editor. If you want, you will be able to change, you will be able to type in text and change what you see here. This is the default of how it arrives using this specific bibliographical style. You see there's a link here. Students clicking the link will arrive into the full view of this item inside Leganto. It will open in a new tab. And you can control the text of this link up here. And this is the first feature that LTI 1.3 will allow users or Canvas users that implement this. That's it. I'm done. And I'll be happy to hear questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Barak, for your presentation as well. And if anybody has any questions, then please pop them into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll be happy to look at them. So I don't see anything so far, Barak. So I'm sure that people can send you questions afterwards as well if they have them, or perhaps at the end of the next presentation we might have an opportunity to take those then as well. So I think what we will do now is continue with the next scheduled part of the meeting. So we'll hand over to the colleagues from the University of Manchester. They're going to tell us about their hybrid approach to Leganto, working with purchase requests and lists. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hi.
I just want the leader to present the PowerPoint. Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, the share option is grayed out for me. Could somebody allow me to share? It was working earlier.
We will just do that, yeah.
Thank you. That's great. So can you just confirm that you can hear me?
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so today, Leader and I will present our approach to working with purchase requests alongside our list for review to secure teaching material at the University of Manchester. We will talk about our workflows and then briefly outline configuration changes and bulk jobs required in Alma. The details of configuration settings will not be covered, but we'll be happy to be contacted about these via email, and we'll give details at the end of the presentation. So I will begin with a brief introduction with a focus on engagement. Leader will then talk through our use of purchasing rules implementation, which was in May 2019. The issues encountered as demand for e-resources increased during the move to remote teaching in 2020, and that led to a project recently undertaken to improve service provision with the benefits to teaching staff and library staff. I will then briefly outline the work that's been required and the issues that we encountered. Finally, Leader will show a short video, hopefully show a short video demonstrating our new hybrid workflow, and then we will answer any of your questions posted in chat. Okay. So, Manchester University completed an implementation and rollout of Leganto, branded Reading Lists Online, to teaching staff in May 2019 and to our students in September of 2019. The Reading List service in Manchester is a one-stop shop for ordering teaching resources from the library, And to that end, we have a dedicated reading list team who provide assistance with all aspects of reading list services, reading list software support, digitisation requests, high demand requests, reading list item procurement, and support for the e-textbook programme. So right from the off, our focus and implementation was to engage teaching staff, promoting the benefit of having a reading list in the system, explaining that a reading list was required in order to request items for teaching, and also ensuring resources were in place. So we created a communications plan. We offered help with list creation, and we offered manageable, bookable one-to-ones for teaching staff to be shown the system. We also created our own user guides, and an FAQ was made available. So I'll now pass you over to Leda.
Hi, hello. So during the implementation of reading lists online, the purchasing rules automate all purchasing items. Not only the review function, although the requested was on the list. Use of purchasing rules was entirely dependent on teaching staff either important as to citation. Figure the system on a reading benefit level in system generated purchase requests for the purpose of tracking purchase only happen if an item is tagged. For items added to a list while cited and not held in our repository, if items display on the list as in process of the library, and a system generated purchase request was created. The move to remote teaching in clear to our teaching staff on the availability of question of requests for them. Three main issues raised. These are these three oblongs, which I think are visible on any small screen you may be viewing by.
Leda?
Hello.
Leda?
Yes.
Leda, I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but we're having a bit of trouble hearing you.
Okay.
I think it's actually better if you face in that direction.
Okay.
Very sorry about that, but it's a bit difficult to hear,
Okay.
to hear what you're saying.
Right. I've got a two-screen situation going on here.
That's much better, actually.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll carry on like this. So for the first box, the item not tagged citation status did not call teaching staff to action. Therefore, it was not clear to teaching staff from either status that tagging the item would create a purchase request to be raised. As we were not using list review at this time, we were not picking things up. As you can see, item added to list, not tagged, not submitted for review, displayed as draft. An item added to the list, not tagged, but was submitted for the review, the citation status would display as in process for the library, but in that circumstance, no purchase request was raised. So to the second box, not clear that purchase request was raised for an ebook. Items held in both e and print would go straight to complete. Items held in print only also go straight to complete. Therefore, if print wasn't held, it wasn't clear that if tagged, a citation had in fact raised a purchase request for an ebook. We found that teaching staff were concerned about this and often resorted to emailing us to check. So the third box, not able to specify that we were unable to buy an ebook. Items purchased would display as complete and items not purchased would also display as complete. This was confusing as it didn't confirm that we had been unable to buy an ebook, but could appear that we had chosen print in preference. Therefore, we added a public note reading no electronic availability to complete citations where we were unable to purchase the ebook. And I'll pass you back to Linda.
Okay, thanks, Leda. So with the move to remote teaching in 2020 and the increased demand for resources to be made available electronically, we had to rethink our processes to ensure items were in place. So we implemented the following workaround in response. So as previously mentioned, we added a public note to indicate that we were unable to purchase an ebook. This was not ideal as if there was existing text in the notes, it appeared cluttered and it could be missed. So over the past 12 months, we had added approximately 4,400 public notes to citations on reading lists. Having used lists for review to identify core items for provision by the eTextbook programme, we began also using lists for review to check for items which had not raised purchase requests, and we were introducing a new hybrid way of working. When checking lists for review, we found items which had not raised purchase requests as important tags had not been added. So we needed to contact our teaching staff, which was really time consuming, especially if there was more than one list owner. So in April this year, a project was started to explore changes to and the addition of new citation statuses in the system to clarify the progression of requests. This would both benefit teaching staff and library staff alike. The project was undertaken by members of the reading list team alongside our colleagues from the library systems team. The following proposals were explored. We wanted to create a robust hybrid workflow, changing existing automatic citation statuses and creating manually applied additional citation statuses. We changed the purchasing rules to make citations display as complete if an ebook was held rather than print. Okay, so over to Leda.
Thank you. And I shall speak directly to the microphone this time. Hopefully it'll be better. So following our review project in May this year, we've implemented the following changes. If an item is added to a list, not tagged and not submitted for review, the citation status no longer displays as draft, but automatically displays as please tag and submit changes to the library. If an item is added to the list, it's not tagged, but it is submitted for review, the citation status still displays as in process with the library, but now is picked up in the list for review workflow and changed manually to please tag. So this way, the action is clearer and the responsibility to tag the items to make something happen is handed to teaching staff. So for the second issue, items tagged but ebook not held, the citation status displays as in process with the library and a purchase request is raised. However, now the citation status does not go to complete if print is already held. So this means that reassurance is given to teaching staff that the ebook purchase is being investigated. So for the third scenario, if an ebook is purchased, the citation status automatically displays as complete. If print is not held, a purchase request is raised, but now the citation status still displays as complete. If print is held, this shows on the citation. If we cannot buy the item as an ebook, the citation status is changed manually to complete, no ebook available. However, if an ebook is subsequently bought, the citation status changes automatically to complete. Any existing print will show on the citation as previously, and if print is not held, a purchase request will be raised, but the citation status will still display as complete, no electronic availability. Clarity is therefore given to teaching staff when an item is definitively unavailable as an ebook, allowing them to make different choices for their teaching. I'll now pass you back to Linda.
Okay, thanks, Leda. So to achieve these changes, we have changed title descriptions on the two automatically applied citation statuses. We've also created two manually applied citation statuses. They'll be applied when we're working on lists for review. We have bulk changed approximately 4,400 citation statuses to complete, no ebook available. We've bulk removed approximately 3,800 public notes, leaving approximately 600 citations still with the public note, no electronic availability, but the note also contains additional text. We couldn't include these in the bulk job and we are now manually checking and editing these notes. As these changes were made live only just over a week before this presentation, it's clearly too early to provide any meaningful information on the success of this project. However, we are confident that these changes made will be a great service improvement. So we did find a few issues. So the following issues were encountered when we were changing with the change to the citation status and the bulk removal of the public notes. So when we had to export an analytics report, and it was required to undertake the bulk changes, we noticed that the citation ID required to run the job changed to a different number. Therefore, the citations were not recognised when we tried to create a set. So to get around this, we had to export the report as Excel 2007 and isolate the citation ID to create a set. When making smaller sets, which we did to speed up the process, we found that not all the citations in each set successfully updated. The job in Alma was taking so long and taking up so much resource on the server that it was causing performance issues for Ex Libris, who pretty quickly got in touch with us to request that we stopped running the job. So a fix was required and it was scheduled to be applied on May the 9th. And happily, I can report that when all went well with the fix, and we were able to run the job and with statuses all updated, which was great. So finally, and I'm not sure whether this is going to work, but we're hoping to show a short video which will demonstrate our new hybrid workflow and the changes to the citation statuses. Have we got that, Leader?
Daniel, if you can confirm, did you receive the email and were you able to show that for us? Hello?
Okay, so we don't have confirmation. We hoped to show a video. I don't know whether it would be worth showing it. Could you show it, Leader, and see? I think we had a problem when you tried to show it earlier that we didn't have any sound.
Yes, I will see if I can make that happen.
We'll try it now, and if somebody can let us know if there's a problem with this, that would be great.
Bear with me a second.
I think that when you share your video, you need to select a specific option, which I cannot do because I cannot share, so that the sound will. You share through audio and video, I think.
Okay.
If you share it, even if you don't hear the sound, we can send it on after the event. But I think if we try to share it, Leader.
Okay, I'm just.
Thank you.
quickly, just the final page of our presentation content.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening to our presentation today. Unfortunately, the video that we've just showed did have sound, but there has been a problem. But we are very happy to send that, or if Ex Libris can provide that, whichever. You have links to our email address and we can send it. So thanks for listening to our presentation. Apologies that there's no sound on the video. And so we're now ready to take any questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Linda and Lita, as well, for that presentation. That was very interesting. I'm sure the video was very nice. I'm sure it's even nicer with sound, and perhaps we can share it via Basecamp or somewhere like that. It would be great to have that available there. There is a question, actually, which is, when you carried out your bulk no ebook available status, had the citations already been checked for ebook availability, and did they have a corresponding public or private note?
Okay, so I could answer that one. So all of our citation statuses, we worked on changing them. So in the first instance, purchase requests were raised because we used purchasing rules configured in Alma, but a citation would come through as complete if we had print. So the team would work on picking up purchase requests to check for electronic availability. So the only way that we could alert our teaching staff to the fact that there was no ebook available was adding the public note. So yes, everything had been checked for an electronic, we checked to see if we could purchase electronic book. So then we added the public note. So yes, there was a lot of items checked for e-availability, and we only started adding the public note to say no ebook last June. So that was something that we'd been doing over the past year, and decided to actually improve the system and make the no ebook available become a citation status. So yes, they were.
Okay, great. Thank you, Linda, for that answer. Barak, if you're still here, I see that you are still here, of course. There is a question about LTI. Actually, one of our guests is asking if version 1.1 isn't it being deprecated?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you. Actually, sorry, I missed. There's a question for the ladies from Manchester. Another question. One of the guests is asking, how are the teams arranged in the library at Manchester?
Okay, so I can answer that one as well. So we have a dedicated reading list team. So we have 6 reading list assistants who do the purchasing. They place complete high demand requests, offer support. So we are a dedicated team. We all work together as one team, reading list assistants, purchasing, providing digitisation, high demand, and answering all the inquiries.
Okay, great. Thank you for that as well. So we still have a few minutes left. So if anybody has any other questions, then you're welcome to put those questions. Don't see any other questions. So perhaps Tamar, shall I hand back over to you? Would you like to say anything in conclusion, Tamar?
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for joining. I apologize that I did not introduce myself at the beginning. First of all, because I feel that it's the continuation of last week. And second, because of I was expecting Ellen to save me, so I wasn't really prepared. So for those who don't know me, so I'm Tamal Saden. I'm leading the Teaching and Learning Solutions at Ex Libris. I'm responsible for Leganto. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all presenters of today and of last week. I think that these presentations were really interesting and very valuable for the community. It's always good to see what other people do. Theoretically, you could go to other people and ask, but it's not really working like this. This is why we have these gatherings. So thank you for your time and for your effort in bringing these themes to life. And I look forward to seeing you next year in person, somewhere nice, without COVID and without masks, even if you can just think about it. And we will obviously share the slides, the video, with audio and the recording of the session with all those who registered, so probably more than the people who really showed up. And we're always happy to answer questions later and do whatever you'd like us to do. Thank you very much.
Great, Tamar, thank you very much. And, you know, we can see actually the sunshine. So for some of us, even that would be nice, actually, to have some sunshine. But yes, indeed, it would be great to be able to see people in person someplace next year. So thank you for that. Again, also from me, thank you for the presentations. Thank you for all of your preparation as well. We know it takes a lot of time, and we certainly appreciate it. As Tamar said, we know that the community does as well. We'll be in contact as soon as the presentations, the videos, recordings are available to share, and we'll certainly do that as soon as we possibly can. So until the next time we have the opportunity to speak, keep enjoying Leganto, keep safe, and we will see you soon. Thank you very much.